Right, welcome to this episode of our program World Today, and I guess it's a special coverage to the dramatic incident that occurred this morning, and we're still with the news of the missing plane so far. So far, the Minister of Civil Aviation has said that Egypt airplane remains missing until debris is found. Somehow there were signs of possible wreckage found off the Greek island of Crete. And that is the latest news, but so far we don't know yet the about of the ill-fated flight. Let me here welcome our guest, Dr. Ali Al Qoraey, and discuss with him the latest. And Dr. Ali Al Qoraey, political analyst, we thank you very much for being with us.
You're welcome.
And as we have seen throughout our coverages, that this flight that was coming from France and heading to Cairo, and it was missed in between this area, about 280 kilometers from Cairo's offshore, or rather from the Egyptian offshore coasts, and it went missing. What has been said so far, that it deviated 90 degrees and then deviated again to the right, and then deviated once again 60 degrees to the left. We have no idea what happened to this plane. And now, how did Egypt manage this the situation? Its contacts with, of course, the countries that are involved or are party of this incident. How did Egypt manage this time, this crisis?
Well, to start with, as you mentioned, it is a tragic accident, and we all feel very sorry for those missing people who, I presume, died, all of them. But the good thing about the mechanism of what has happened, I think the cooperation between France, Greece, and Egypt. They are cooperating in search of the missing plane in the Mediterranean. They are sending boats and planes from all sides and trying to help Egypt locating the plane. Don't forget that the plane started its doomed course from Paris toward Egypt. So Paris feels that it has a responsibility as well. And secondly, the plane, the Airbus, is a French consortium, French, British, Spanish, and German consortium building this plane. So France has double responsibilities. If it is a technical problem, then France is to be blamed as well as the other countries in Europe. And secondly, if something else happened, it started from Paris. So it is part of their responsibility to look thoroughly into the plane before departure.
Exactly, and we have the news that the French president already has set a committee, an investigating committee, right away after the incident to know the abouts of such an incident. And of course, he did not deny or confirm what could be the reason behind what happened to this plane, whatever it is. We don't know yet what.
Still premature, very premature.
Yes, very much premature to say. But however, this response, this quick response from France and from Greece as well, and we're speaking here about friend countries. We're speaking about France is a friend country. The president of France was here in Egypt just a few weeks ago, where a number of agreements were signed. Greece, and we have particular relations with, of course, Greece and Cyprus, and the latest deals between Egypt and both countries. Now, we're speaking about friendly countries. How do you view this support of those countries and our collaboration with the Egyptian authority, particularly the armed forces, of course, that announced its searching operation right after this incident?
I think it is primarily a humanitarian gesture. all countries have to help each other, in such horrible circumstances like the accident that happened. Secondly, as you mentioned, there are friendly nations with Egypt, and we have a close cooperation, whether on the economic or military levels, and progressing. So I think that, if I may so, I'm satisfied with the degree of cooperation between the three countries. And this is very important because, as you said, France is a very close ally now in Europe. It is the #1 country that is supporting Egypt right now. Greece has had a very long relationship with Egypt. Remember, in Egypt we had hundreds of thousands of Greeks living in Alexandria, Cairo, even in Upper Egypt and so on. And we are so similar in everything. So the cooperation is there. I wish that cooperation was on a different level, not the accident, but it happened that way. But it showed that those countries are a close ally to Egypt.
Definitely. Another matter that is very much questionable here is how the Western media tackled the situation right after the incident. Right after the incident, it was presumed that it is a terrorist act, that that there is some wrong went with the plane, but presuming that it is a terrorist action right after the incident itself. How do you feel like receiving such news?
I think that maybe what prompted them to act this way, or to say or to issue statements in this respect, is that the plane went missing all of a sudden. When you have technical problems, you use the black box, you talk to the authorities in various airports. I'm having problems, technical problems, and so on. But when the plane disappears completely, all of a sudden, they presume it is a bomb that has been planted, or an explosion.
Rather, what has been exactly said by the Greeks or the Egyptian authorities here, the Egyptian Minister of Civil Aviation, that the last calls were made by 2:32 a.m. And that suddenly they have managed to see that the aeroplane deviated to the right 90 degrees and then deviated again to the left 60 degrees, and then it went totally missing. And that they tried to contact this aeroplane from 2:32 a.m. Cairo local time, of course, until 2:52, and then it totally vanished. So we are not aware exactly why the aeroplane suddenly deviated in this dramatic way, because 90 degrees, this is a total shift from its track. And then another 60 degrees, that is another shift. So what has happened? I mean, here, yes, that was very much obvious on the radar. Why the speculations that it is a terrorist act rather than a technical problem, a sudden issue that happened to the aeroplane, to another aeroplane that was coming on the same route? I mean, here we don't know exactly what happened. So the media, and how the media affects the circumstances of the incidents.
No, what you said indicates that there was a technical problem when the plane deviates like this. And I'm not an expert at all, but I think it's a problem with the tail of the plane, because when it goes this way, so there must be something wrong with the stability of the plane, probably. I'm not an expert, but I'm guessing. So when you mention that, it means that there was a technical problem. But the question is, why didn't the pilot respond to the communication from other airports?
They say that there was a mayday. There was a mayday, a once mayday from the pilot, and then it went off.
So it must be a technical problem in this case.
We have no idea.
Yeah, nobody knows. But
yes.
That's why I'm saying it's very premature. But people are guessing from what they hear or read or so on that the problem is, it seems to me, maybe technical in this case. When the plane veers like this, there is something wrong with the mechanism of the plane.
This is why we're asking about how the media responds to such incidents. I'm not speaking about this particular incident in itself, but rather incidents that occur. I mean here that media has lots of impact, of repercussions, or how it reflects on people, how it really influences people. That is very much obvious of how media tackle issues. Now, how do you view how media tackle such incidents?
I think they are still under the shock of what happened in Brussels and Paris. Whatever happens, terrorism. That was the first indication when they talked about it. A bomb was planted or whatever it is. Because, again, they have this in the back of their mind. Something, again, with terrorism has happened. And it could be totally wrong. But this is the first impression. You know, see, this is a bomb again. Explosion. Something happened.
Yes. I guess we have with us over the phone Dr. Basant Fahmy, Member of Parliament. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much.
And we're speaking about the ill-fated flight, and of course we know that since the very beginning, the National Security Council held a meeting headed by President Sisi, and of course the Speaker of the Parliament was there. How is the Parliament following out with this incident?
First of all, definitely this is a terrible accident, but this type of accident has been repeated during the last few months and years, several times, all over the world. We still don't know what is the exact outcome. We don't know, was it an accident or was it a terrorism attack? We still don't know. People are making assumptions, but what I see from our side, that we're taking all precautions, trying to understand exactly what happened. Definitely France, ourselves, are the two main points which we could really investigate together. And in the middle, we saw that the flight went down near Greece. So I cannot comment on the accident. It's a terrible accident, but we still have to wait, still premature to know exactly what happened. But all assumptions have to be there. All probabilities have to be there. We cannot deny anything, meaning some people say, no, it is not a terrorist attack. We have to leave all options open until the investigations will show what exactly happened. But it's a very sad accident. Actually.
Yes, we don't have really to jump into conclusions. But let me ask you here, how did you view how the authorities, the Egyptian authorities, dealt with such a crisis? I mean here, were they well prepared? Did they? Is there a kind of crisis management department here that has been controlling the situation in the proper way? How did you see the whole scene?
Well, I feel, honestly speaking, for the time, all the country is on alert, starting from the president to the council, to the ministry, to the cabinet, everybody. I mean, even the people and everybody is really anxious to know what happened. And I think this time they're taking it in a more professional manner, meaning that starting from the higher council of security, and we see the rest of the authorities in Egypt. The problem is not a simple one, but I think it is dealt with much better than previous accidents, especially that we did not yet jump to conclusions. I mean, it's very dangerous you jump to conclusion and then you make assumptions, and it to be something totally different. So I think this time is much better than before. But again, we have to wait and see exactly what happened, because up till now, neither France nor any other country has declared any information which could lead us to what was it exactly. Yes. Again, it's a sad accident, and my condolences to all the families.
Yes, very much indeed. Dr. Basant Fahmy, Member of Parliament, we thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you very much.
Back to you, Dr. Ali, and we were speaking about how the media tackled the issue, and from the New York Times here we say Egypt and Greece mount search for missing Egypt airplane. And it says that Egypt and Greece mounted a maritime search and rescue operation early on Thursday for the Egyptian passenger jet with 66 people on board that disappeared over the Mediterranean shortly before it was to land in Cairo. This is, of course, according to the airline and government officials. Yes, very much indeed. Now, what we have seen here is the National Security Council holding an urgent meeting, right, and following the incident headed by President Al-Sisi, and reviewing and following up with the reports of what happened and what should be happening. Now, as I was asking Dr. Basant Fahmy here about the response of the Egyptian authorities to the situation and how quick was it, do we have what we can call departments or crisis management departments to deal with crisis and to have a kind of transparent releases so right information can really be transferred in the proper way?
I believe that we had such a committee maybe at the time. It was its responsibility to find solutions to major crises that happened in Egypt. I don't know whether it is still there or not. I'm not aware of it. But yes, there was. And I think it's a very important issue to have this committee always there on alert. Whatever happens, like, you know, the fires that were everywhere in Egypt all of a sudden for a few days, they should investigate the causes for this. What was the cause behind it? But anyway, it's very important to have it. And I really salute the government and the council that gathered immediately after the incident. And at least they are there to communicate with each other and find possible solutions and coordination with other nations as well, because the sooner you act, the better it is. And don't forget that we have 66 and other tourists as well on that plane with their families. They are waiting for answers. As you mentioned, the transparency is very important. But again, I'm saying it is still very premature. The only known thing is that the plane crashed. It disappeared. Yes. But why and how and all of this, we don't know yet. We have to wait.
If there was here a report that said that the France domestic intelligence has already, chief, of course, I'm speaking about the French domestic intelligence chief, has warned just a few days ago that France was at risk of coming under a new form of attack from Daesh, of course, and that the country was clearly its top target. It has emerged from this particular warning. Now, how did you read such a warning just a few days ago and after? I mean here, of course, it's premature to speak about that, but I guess each time where there is a kind of good rapprochements between Egypt and any other country, there is always something that emerges that puts a kind of, I don't know, maybe it's our hints here or there, but there is always something that erupts whenever there is good relations with any of the countries. We started with Russia, then Italy, and now France. How do you view here the situation?
It could be coincidence, and it could be a plan set by some terrorists to jeopardize any good relations with Egypt and other countries in Europe or abroad in general.
So again, if there was this warning from the French domestic intelligence chief, from your point of view, wasn't it more important to just emphasize or put more security checks on whatever is supposed to be an area that can really be attacked, or particularly we're speaking here about airports, we're speaking here about planes, we're speaking here about the safety of passengers on flights, and how?
It's a bit strange, because when the chief of the intelligence service, the French one, warns that there is an impending, maybe something happening in the near future, and there is no response or not enough good response from the other side, it's amazing. Why? So is that a lack of coordination between the two instances, or what? I don't know. Especially that the intelligence, it's their role to warn. Watch it, we have some information that something might happen. So at the airport, they must take all kinds of precautions to avoid any potential problem. And something else too, I think that the authorities at the airport, the two airports of Paris, they should scrutinize all the people working there. They could be maybe a dormant cells, as they call them, among those people working at the airport. Everything is possible. So they should go one by one and check all those people and see whether there is any potential problem in the future to jeopardize, as I said, the good relations between France and any other country that is dealing with France. So this should happen the soonest.
Now, in each disaster that emerged, there has been some kind of disruption on the political scene between Egypt and, or let me say, some kind of misunderstanding, some kind of I just don't want to say bad relations that comes afterwards, but rather I just to say that there is a kind of this disagreement or a kind of unwanted relations between our country, and whenever there is a tragic, how do you feel, or how do you think this time the relations between Egypt and France will come out with?
I don't think there will be a change in the relationship between France and Egypt. I mean, our people, from President Sisi and other ministers, they know exactly where the interests of Egypt lie. You know, they shouldn't have any problem with those countries because they did not do it intentionally. It can happen. So we should solve the problem at, in such a way that it will not harm the relationship between the two countries. Look at Italy. Now they have appointed a new ambassador now, and they say that we should go back to Egypt, otherwise we lose a market share in Egypt. So the interests are the main thing in the relations between the countries. It's a short-lived problem that will last for a few months, then things will come back to normal. And this is, you look all over the world, it happens this way.
Yes, very much indeed. I guess we have with us over the phone Mr. Munir Hamza, who is a political analyst and at the same time expert in the aviation field.
Yes, I've worked for an aviation company for a number of years.
Yes.
It's a military kind of aviation company.
Yes.
It's called Dassault Aviation. I've worked for them for quite a number of years. Yes.
Yes. Good evening to you, sir. And let me have from your experience, how did you read this incident?
Of course, it's a bit premature to say anything concrete about it, but then the inclination, whatever came up to now as pertinent information, the inclination of the plane, sudden inclination, they said 90 degrees to the left, and then it was reported that there was another inclination to up to 320 degrees to the right before a sudden loss of altitude from 37,000 feet to 15,000 feet. This is, if this can be imputed to a technical problem, in other words, a sudden loss of pressure, for instance, or anything else, a total failure of the navigation system, which is very rare in any type of aircraft, by the way, not necessarily the Airbus A320, which has a good security log among other airliners. I would say I wouldn't go very much for this. In other words, I don't think it's a technical problem. It has to be really catastrophic. Did the aircraft try to, was it hit by something, and it tried to evade it? So it took a sudden curve. But then if it did, the pilot didn't say anything. There was no distress signal from the pilot or the co-pilot. So that's another question to ask. Or was it that there was a bomb on board, which again, I mean, it's what, like 2 hours and a half of flight. Was it put with a kind of a system detonator that was put on a device that will trigger it after 2 hours and a half of flight? I don't know. To be honest, I'm not very much for the technical explanation. In other words, the technical crash of all systems on board. I would go maybe for something that's in the line of a terror attack.
Yes, so we have to to open all scenarios in front of us and wait to see the black boxes and what will they reveal. Let me here ask you about checkups for in the aviation system or in our flights, and the regular check of our flights. Yes. And how do they take place on regular basis? Are we checking on our flights in the proper?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. We have something in French called the petite visite and the grande visite, and actually we wouldn't have been part of the Star Alliance system unless we had to go through all these prerequisites in terms of, especially technical prerequisites for our plane, for our fleet. Had it not been for this, we wouldn't have been accepted from the Star Alliance, if we can call it a conglomerate. We are good in this. We have a good reputation, and actually we have the expertise. Some of the expertise, quite extensive, I would say, is on Egyptian soil, and we have a good reputation for this. So with all the years I had with Dassault, because we were producing some parts within the Arab organization, Industrial Aviation Complex in Helwan, and even the factories within the military production. We had a good, I would say, a good record. A good management record. Yes, we are not. I don't think we are in default in this department.
If I may ask you here, finally, about the regular measures that are taken in order to make sure that the plane, of course, from any airport. I'm not speaking just from Egypt, but rather from the whole world at large. What are the measures and procedures taken to make the final checkup before any flight goes on or carry out with its, of course, on its track or on its route?
the only company in the world that has pushed for its own security procedures, aside from the ones that are implemented by the country itself, the country that is related to the departure of the flight, is El Al, the Israeli airline El Al. They have their own security systems, and they have their own personnel that will recheck the passengers after, especially in certain airports, quite a few I would say, even after they've been checked by the personnel within the airports. Security measures, of course, are stringent. I think they are all over the world. And I think we had 3 security agents on board, but they're not responsible for somebody, presumably, if somebody went in the aircraft with an explosive belt, I presume this is the responsibility of the French authorities, not the responsibility of Egypt Air. They're the ones responsible for this.
Yes, what I was asking is exactly how do we all know that technical problems happen. We all know that terrorism and the whole world at large is at maximum alert for any kind of terrorist action. So do you think from your point of view that we really need, I'm not speaking about we as Egypt, but rather we as the whole world need to put a kind of double check measures now that we are very much vulnerable to such actions?
I think the most important part in this is that security apparatus in the world have to cooperate with each other. This is very important. In other words, you need, first and foremost, you have to exchange information, intelligence information, between the different intelligence, the widely known ones, the ones that do have the measures to acquire sophisticated intelligence material. Before starting something practical, I think we have to start working on this level first and foremost. After we do that, and we can have some kind of a pool for us to exchange this kind of information, in other words, who is doing what, where, and who can be a potential terrorist to be screened, we can start afterwards maybe readdressing whatever security measures are applied nowadays, maybe to modify them, maybe to change them, and to maybe to add something on top of it.
Right, Mr. Munir Hamza, political analyst and expert in the aviation systems, we thank you very much for being with us. And back to you in just 1 minute. The last of what can really happen, what are we expecting, and how to avert such incidents, we at large, we as the world, as I was speaking.
Tighter security and innovation in the technological measures to avoid future problems.
Right. Let me here just thank you because our time is out. Dr. Ali Al Qoraey, of course, political answer. Thank you very much for being with us. And dear viewers, we are continuing on with our coverage until we know what happened to our plane. I guess that will continue on for the day. Many thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the top stories coming right after this program.